The city never truly sleeps, it only hides behind neon and noise. In the heart of its sleepless veins stands the Golden Mirage Casino, a palace built for dreams and debts. Some come here for fortune, some for escape, but only one man returns for redemption. His name was Ethan Cole. The casino once broke, now walking back through its golden doors to face the ghosts that never left. Before entering the story, please subscribe. Ethan Cole stepped out of a black sedan and stood before the towering glass entrance of the Golden Mirage. The building shimmered under the evening lights, reflecting the city like a mirage of gold and smoke. 10 years had passed, yet the air still smelled of the same perfumed cigars and promises that would never be kept. As the doors slid open, the symphony of chips and laughter hit him like a forgotten melody. The casino floor pulsed with life, slot machines blinking, roulette wheels spinning, the rhythm of greed perfectly in tune. But amidst the chaos, Ethan walked slow, deliberate, as if every step took him closer to the past he could never bury. He caught glimpses of faces turning toward him, whispers like ripples following his shadow. That's him, Ethan Cole, the legend, the ghost, the man who lost everything in one impossible hand. But he didn't flinch. He just straightened his jacket and moved toward the bar, his reflection passing across the mirrors like a phantom revisiting its tomb. He sat down, ordered a whiskey neat. The bartender hesitated, eyes darting nervously as if serving a man cursed. Ethan lifted the glass, the amber liquid trembling slightly, or maybe it was his hand. He stared into it and for a brief moment saw her face, Veronica Hale, the dealer, the woman who smiled as his life crumbled. He turned his gaze toward the main table area, and there she was, still radiant, still untouchable, still pretending he didn't exist. But her green eyes flickered, once betraying a storm beneath that perfect mask. Ethan's lips curled faintly. The game had begun again long before the first card was even dealt. The air inside the casino pulsed with whispers. Every step Ethan took seemed to stir old memories, ghosts that clung to the walls and mirrors. 10 years ago, he was a name spoken in awe. A man who played like fate itself sat beside him. But that was before the night of the fall, the night his final bet turned his fortune into ruin. As he leaned against the bar, Ethan watched the spinning roulette wheel. Its rhythm was hypnotic, red black, like the beating of a mechanical heart. The same sound that haunted his dreams for years. He could still hear the echo of laughter, the clinking of glasses, and her voice. Veronica's whispering, "Place your final bet." His hand tightened around the glass. He turned toward the mirrored wall and saw his reflection split between light and shadow. For a second, the reflection blinked differently than he did, almost like the man in the mirror was someone else entirely. A trick of light, maybe. Or maybe the casino still remembered him too. The sound of cards shuffling cut through the air, soft, deliberate, deadly. Ethan turned toward the main table where Veronica held dealt cards with the same grace he remembered. Her hands were steady movements, precise, each flick of the wrist like choreography, rehearsed by the devil himself. He approached slowly, the crowd parting without a word. The air grew heavy. Veronica looked up just as he reached the table. Their eyes met, 10 years of silence crashing in a single glance. Her smile was flawless, polite, and yet it trembled at the edges. "Good evening, Mr. Cole," she said, voice smooth as silk yet hiding the tremor beneath. "Back to try your luck?" Ethan smirked faintly, the kind of smile that carried more pain than joy. "No," he replied. "Just came to see if the house still remembers how to play fair." The table fell silent. Chips stopped clicking. Even the dealer's rhythm broke for a heartbeat. Veronica's fingers froze above the deck before she laughed softly, the same laugh that haunted his nightmares. The game was back on, and this time there was no turning away. The silence that followed was heavy, the kind of silence that pressed against your chest until you couldn't breathe. The crowd slowly began to whisper again, but their voices were distant, meaningless. All that existed was the faint hum of the ceiling fans, the slow rhythm of cards sliding on felt, and the pulse in Ethan's ears. He pulled out a chip from his pocket, old, worn, the color faded. The number etched on it was 777, the same one he had placed 10 years ago. On the night everything fell apart, he set it on the table without a word. Veronica's eyes widened almost imperceptibly. That chip had been removed from circulation, sealed away with the memory of the man who lost it all. Yet here it was again, glinting faintly under the golden light, a ghost bet made flesh. "You kept it all these years?" she asked softly, her professional tone slipping for a heartbeat. Ethan's gaze didn't waver. Some debts don't vanish just because the house pretends they never existed. Her hand trembled ever so slightly. For the first time that night, Veronica, hail the untouchable queen of the casino floor, looked uncertain. From the upper balcony, unseen by most, Mr. Donovan watched the exchange. His cold blue eyes narrowed, a faint smirk curving his lips. So he muttered under his breath, "The ghost returns." He turned his cane, slowly tapping the floor twice as signal. The guards at the edges of the casino subtly adjusted their stance. Down below, Ethan could feel it, the shift in the air, the way the casino itself seemed to awaken. The music softened, the crowd's laughter dimmed. It was as though the building recognized him, as though it remembered the night the house nearly lost. Veronica shuffled the cards again, her composure restored. "Same rules, Mr. Cole," she said, forcing a smile. "Unless you've brought your own this time." Ethan looked around the room at the lights, the mirrors, the people, pretending not to stare, and then back at her. "No," he said calmly, "but I brought something better." He leaned forward, his voice low and deliberate. "A memory." For a moment, Veronica froze again. The cards in her hand slipped slightly, and somewhere in the corner a single light flickered, as if the casino itself shuddered at the sound of that word. The first card slid across the green, felt smooth as silk. The sound, a soft whisper of paper, carried more tension than thunder. Ethan's eyes followed the motion, and blinking as Veronica's slender fingers dealt the cards with mechanical precision. Her face revealed nothing, but her pulse was visible in the hollow of her neck. He picked up his cards, slowly studying them. The room felt smaller now, the air thick with unspoken history. Around them, other players watched quietly, pretending not to care, but every gaze was fixed on the man who had once defied the odds and lost everything doing it. Veronica smiled faintly, the kind of smile a predator gives before the kill. "You still read faces instead of cards?" she asked softly. Ethan's lips curved, though his eyes stayed cold. "Only the ones that still lie." He placed two chips, the old one and a new one, side by side. The dealer's hand paused for half a second. There was something sacred, almost ritualistic, about this moment. The casino floor seemed to hold its breath. Then the roulette spun again. The music resumed. The world continued as if nothing had changed, except everything had. Ethan's gaze flicked briefly toward the upper balcony, the one where he knew Donovan stood. The man hadn't moved, but Ethan could feel his stare like a knife against his skin. A decade ago, Donovan had been the architect of his downfall. The final hand Ethan lost that night hadn't been luck, it had been arranged. But tonight was different. Tonight, Ethan wasn't just playing cards. He was playing ghosts. Veronica dealt another round. A soft breeze moved through the casino, strange given there were no open doors. The lights flickered faintly, and for a moment, Ethan thought he heard a whisper behind him, his wife's voice gentle and broken. "Don't lose again." He froze for just a second, his knuckles white around the cards. Then he exhaled, regaining composure. The others didn't notice, but Veronica did. Her eyes softened, almost human for a heartbeat. "Still haunted, Mr. Cole?" she asked quietly. The question wasn't mocking this time, it was genuine. Ethan smiled faintly, though the pain in his eyes told another story. "Aren't we all?" he replied. The next card turned over, the ace of spades. Ethan leaned back in his chair, exhaling the smoke of a half-burned cigar. His gaze drifted toward the chandelier above, thousands of tiny crystals catching the light, trembling like nerves before a storm. He knew Donovan was still watching, orchestrating from the shadows like a puppeteer with invisible strings. The dealer announced the next round, but something felt wrong. Ethan's instincts, sharpened by years of deceit, caught the subtle twitch in Veronica's left eye. The barely perceptible delay before she turned the card. Someone had tampered with the deck. He smiled faintly, a predator's grin disguised as calm. If this was a trap, he was ready to play along. "Raise," he said quietly, pushing forward a stack of chips that gleamed under the warm light. The other players hesitated. Veronica met his gaze, not with confidence this time, but with something closer to fear. Under the table, her heel pressed a small switch. A red light blinked behind the dealer's station, a signal. Somewhere in the surveillance room, Donovan saw it, and he whispered to himself, "He knows." Moments later, Veronica leaned forward, her lips barely moving. "You're not supposed to win tonight," she murmured. The sentence sliced through the casino noise like a razor through silk. Ethan didn't flinch. He simply looked at her long enough for her to understand that he wasn't here to win. He was here to finish something. "Tell Donovan," Ethan said softly, voice low and steady, "that the game he started ends with me." For a heartbeat, the casino seemed frozen, the cards midair, the lights suspended, even the smoke curling upward, like time had stopped. Then the sound of a chip hitting the felt broke the silence, sharp and deliberate. Veronica's breath hitched. She looked toward the balcony, but Donovan was gone. Somewhere deep in the casinos, a hidden elevator door closed. With a metallic click, the real game had just begun. Ethan stood up from the table, his chair sliding back with a low screech against the marble floor. The casino murmurs resumed behind him as if the world had exhaled, but his attention was fixed on the narrow hallway behind the dealer's booth door, disguised as part of the wall. He'd seen Donovan vanish there seconds ago. He moved with the slow, measured pace of someone who knew every step mattered. The air grew colder the closer he got to the door, the faint scent of cigarette smoke replaced by damp stone and machine oil. Veronica called out behind him, her voice trembling slightly. "If you go down there, you don't come back the same." He paused, turning just enough to meet her eyes. "I wasn't planning to," he said quietly. The hidden door clicked open under his hand. Behind it, a narrow staircase spiraled downward, lit only by flickering bulbs. Shadows stretched long across the walls, twisting like restless ghosts. Each step echoed not just in the air, but in his chest, where fear and purpose began to blur into one. The staircase led to a sublevel no tourist had ever seen. The air was thick, not with perfume and champagne like upstairs, but with dust-cold metal and forgotten promises. The walls were lined with photographs of old gamblers faded by time, each face wearing the same expression, triumph twisted with regret. At the far end stood a single door of reinforced steel. A golden insignia shimmered faintly in the dim light, the symbol of the original owners of the Golden Mirage, the same family Ethan had once worked for before. Donovan took everything. He pushed the door open slowly. Inside was a vast circular chamber dimly lit by candles set on marble pedestals. In the center sat Mr. Donovan alone, his silver hair gleaming under the faint light. A glass of whiskey untouched before him. "You really couldn't stay away, could you?" Donovan said without looking up. His voice was calm to calm. Ethan stepped closer, his shoes echoing against the cold stone floor. "I came to take back what you stole," he said. The words were simple, but behind them lay a decade of silence, betrayal, and buried pain. Donovan looked up at him, a ghost of a smile on his lips. "Then let's deal one last time." The silence between them stretched thick and electric. The hum of the underground generators was the only sound, steady, like a heartbeat beneath the earth. Ethan stood on one side of the marble table, Donovan on the other. Two men who had built their lives on risk, now facing the final bet neither could walk away from. "Do you remember the last time we sat across each other?" Donovan asked, swirling his whiskey. The amber liquid caught the candlelight like molten gold. "You lost everything that night, your money, your house, your wife." Ethan's jaw tightened. "I didn't lose her. You took her." Donovan smiled faintly, his eyes reflecting both amusement and something darker. "Everyone signs their own fate, Ethan. The game simply collects." He slid a small black velvet box across the table. Inside was a single golden chip unlike any Ethan had ever seen. Symbols carved into its surface shimmered faintly like they were alive. "One last game," Donovan said. "Winner walks away with everything, past, present, future." Ethan stared at the chip, his pulse loud in his ears. This wasn't about money anymore. This was about redemption or damnation. The door behind them creaked open. Veronica stepped into the chamber, her red dress now dulled by the candlelight, her face pale. She looked at Ethan first, then at Donovan. "You can't do this again," she said, voice trembling. "The house always takes what it's owed, and this time it's not just chips." Donovan chuckled softly. "You were never good at staying out of games that don't belong to you, Veronica." But she didn't back down. Her eyes glistened with something close to fear. "You think you're gambling for revenge, Ethan, but you don't know what this place really is." Ethan turned toward her. "Then tell me." Veronica stepped closer, whispering so only he could hear. "Every card, every spin, it feeds the house. The Golden Mirage was built on lost souls. You win, you walk away, free, you lose." She didn't finish. She didn't need to. Ethan looked down at the glowing chip again. For the first time, he wasn't sure if he wanted to play, but the game had already begun. Ethan sat down across from Donovan. The golden chip glowed faintly between them, pulsing like a living heart. The air itself seemed to thicken, the candles bending slightly as if drawn toward the table. The chamber no longer felt like part of the casino. It felt ancient, alive, and aware of what was about to happen. Donovan shuffled the cards slowly, his hands steady, ritualistic. Every movement echoed with meaning, every sound deliberate. "You know the rules," he said quietly. "No tricks, no lies. The game ends when one of us folds." Ethan nodded, his face unreadable. He felt the weight of everything, the years he'd lost, the woman he'd failed to save, the man across from him who'd turned his life into ashes. This wasn't about luck anymore. This was about balance. As the first card hit the table, the chamber lights dimmed, leaving only the glow of the golden chip and the flicker of the candles. The air trembled. Whispered voices, faint and distant, filled the silence like the ghosts of old gamblers watching from the shadows. Veronica stood near the door, her hands clasped tightly, whispering a silent prayer. Minutes passed like hours. The cards on the table formed a pattern neither man could fully comprehend. The last card, the final turn, lay face down between them, waiting. The golden chip's light began to flicker, pulsing faster, brighter. Donovan smirked, his confidence unbroken. Even now you don't understand what you're gambling for, he said. This place doesn't just take souls, it remembers them. You win and it forgets you ever existed. You lose and you'll never leave. Ethan's hand hovered over the last card. His reflection stared back at him from the golden chip tired eyes. A man who had nothing left but the will to end this. He flipped the card. Ace of Hearts. The candles flared violently, the chamber shaking with a low hum that came from nowhere and everywhere. Donovan's smile vanished. The golden chip cracked, spilling a light that filled the entire room, warm, blinding, pure. Veronica shielded her face as the glow enveloped everything. When it faded, Ethan was gone. Only the golden chip remained resting on the table, now cold and lifeless.